Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Don Odell's Legends. My name is Art Tipalidi, and today we are here with a friend of mine for almost 25 years, a real exciting guitar player, vocalist, songwriter, James Armstrog.
Art,
Welcome.
so good to see you.
Good to see you again, too, my friend. Welcome to Palmer, Massachusetts.
It's nice to be here. We've been
Yeah.
here for a day. We're going to work here tonight and have some fun.
Great, great. Well, let's start like this. Instead of, you have a brand new CD out, we'll talk about that in a minute, but let's go back and let's introduce you to the viewers who may not know who James Armstrong is. You're not an East Coast guy,
Nope.
so you wouldn't be playing the standard gigs here, although you did play Black Eyed Sally's a number of
Oh,
times in
God,
Hartford.
years ago.
Yeah, that's
right.
when we first
right.
met.
Connecticut, right?
Yeah, right
Yep,
in Hartford,
yeah.
But I know one of the times I saw you up at the Mount Snow Blues Fest.
Poconos?
No, Mount Snow. The other one Michael Korn ran up in Vermont. You were in a tent, and I just thought, I said, I'm watching Jimi Hendrix up there. So this guy is a fabulous guitar player. So I'm going to just play the devil's advocate. So you were a guitar prodigy growing up, right? You were all guitar.
That's all I ever want to do because I was raised by my dad.
Okay.
Right? And my mom was a singer, but, she left when I was a baby.
Yeah.
So my dad raised me, and he played guitar.
Okay.
So he was like a jazz player. So I basically, I started off playing drums when I was 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then I tried saxophone.
Okay.
And there was always a guitar around. And
Yeah.
when I was like 9 or so, I picked one up and it kind of made sense. So I've been playing a couple of years.
Yeah, just a couple. And you told me once a story about a chalkboard in the living room.
Oh, God.
How about that?
Yeah, every time I'd come home from school, elementary school, my dad was really into music theory.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, because he was a jazz guy. Well,
Right.
you got to read. You got to learn to read.
Right.
So I'd, have a hard day at school all day, and then I'd come home, and he'd have a chalkboard, and
Uh-huh.
I'd have to sit down for an hour, and he'd teach me music
Oh,
theory.
wow.
All the
That's-
time, and it was like, but I was really glad years later.
Sure.
Yeah.
You grew up in Santa Monica, California.
Santa Monica, yeah. I was
And-
born in L.A., but grew
Okay.
up in Santa
Okay.
Monica.
So, and you grew up in the mid-60s, in the 60s.
No.
Who were you listening to get, besides your dad,
Right.
who were you listening to as a young kid that was opening your eyes to what you could do in the guitar?
But when I really started first playing the guitar, it was like basically a lot of jazz stuff. It was a lot of Nat King Cole, just all kind of jazz. And then it kind of came from me just hearing some pop stuff on
Yeah.
the radio.
Okay.
I wasn't, because I got the blues at home.
Right.
But, when I just went out by myself, some of the stuff I don't even remember because my dad was so versatile with
Right.
he didn't care. As long as there was music going on in the house, that was important.
Right. Were
Yeah.
you in a band in those young days?
I
High school?
started, my first band I started when I was, I think we were like 13 or 14.
Oh, cool.
And I played guitar. My best friend played drums. We had a bass player, and
Yeah.
we just sat around and just wrote kid songs.
Uh-huh.
And I remember one time my dad had a bunch of producers come over to the house. And
Yeah.
I guess we thought we were going to be the next Jacksons or
Yeah.
something. Didn't quite work out that way.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mentioned Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
He's, I'm sure, a big influence on you at a young age.
When I actually got into him a few weeks after he died,
Oh,
because I
wow.
didn't really, I'd heard of him
Yeah.
and stuff, but I was somewhere
'Cause
else
you would have
musically.
been mid-teens about that,
Exactly.
13, 14, 15.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
And then I had a friend, I just talked to him. He didn't move to, his name's George Smith. Anyway, he was older than me, and he was into Hendrix, wore the headband and did
Yeah.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
So the next thing I know, I'm wearing the headband and I
Yeah.
got the long pants on, and we're trying to talk like Hendrix.
Yeah.
That was the first album I ever bought, was
Yeah.
Are You Experienced? That was the first, and that's all I listened to
Yeah.
for years.
Yeah. Were you learning stuff off of that?
What was interesting,
Let me put it this way. What can Jimi Hendrix teach you on record as a
Well,
guitar player?
what happened was when I finally got signed, years later,
Yeah.
what I found out is I listened so much
Mm-hmm.
to him, and I believe there's a lot of people could play like other people, but I couldn't physically play like him.
Right.
But vocally,
Yes.
I listened to him and sang all the songs that I think vocally
Yes.
I started
Yeah.
getting into him, and musically, not physically with the guitar, but just different ideas of music.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, because he did expand ideas of music and probably mixed jazz. What your dad was teaching
definitely.
You probably at that moment had a eureka moment of, oh, that's how it works.
Well, it's interesting. My dad's best friend, it's sort of like my godfather. His name was Irving Ashby, and he played guitar for Nat King Cole. He was part of the Nat King Cole church. It's like I saw him almost every day.
Yeah.
Anyway, I used to go over his house. He would give me lessons. This was when I was like 19 and 20 and all Hendrixed out.
Yeah.
And one time I was there and he goes, "Oh boy, you into that Hendrix?" And I go, "Yeah, man." He goes, "Well, Hendrix sat in that chair when Hendrix had come to his house because he was famous. He was an incredible virtuoso guitar player, Irving Ashby, and he was trying to get into jazz right before he died. Hendrix was going, he was going somewhere else.
Right.
And all I did that whole night, I just sat in that chair, and I sat in the chair that Hendrix was in,
Yeah. Well, I know in some of our talks in the past, you also mentioned the influence of the Allman Brothers as another aha moment.
Oh God,
what was that?
That was like, when I first got into a band, I was still in high school. I was like 16, and there was some guy, the biggest band in Santa Monica. Somehow I was at a party and I was able to sit in with them, and next thing I know, we're all leaving and they asked me to get in the band. Okay. So that opened so many doors. But that was like, it was rock blues, but it was Southern rock, Southern, and that was more bluesier with the Allman Brothers feel. Because the first thing I really ever realized for me, I used to hear Statesboro blues so many different ways, and then even Stormy Monday. Yeah. When I heard the Allman Brothers do it, it changed for me, because I heard my dad's, the old folks, and it was kind of great, but they put some fire to it, and I went, wow.
Yeah, that young idea,
young
definitely. Attitude.
Yeah.
And I know for blues guys who were very influential with you as a young teenage prodigy, it was John Lee and Albert Collins.
Albert Collins.
Collins.
He just had a birthday a few days ago.
I think so.
Yeah, I met him through, I call him my big brother. I met Coco Montoya when I was 12. My best friend was his sister's boyfriend. So anyway, my bike broke down. I had a flat tire at like 1 o'clock in the morning. I shouldn't have been out that late, but I couldn't ride home, and he gave me a ride home, Coco. Yeah. So I have him come in, and so I can play guitar. Yeah. But I didn't know that he was playing drums at that time for Albert. Yeah. And years later, Coco and I had a little band called Coco and James.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, cool. And he brought Mr. Albert Collins in, and I was just like, oh my God. And so we did a few things with him, and hanging out, and just, it was amazing, just the presence and him just helping. Yeah.
I mean, I never met him, but through Coco and Debbie Davies, I feel like I know what a wonderful human being he was.
Just his soul, because it's funny, Albert had this look on your face don't mess with me.
That's right.
I'm mean, but he wasn't.
Yeah,
he was
a
just
big old
really
sweet.
Yeah.
Now, I was just on the Blues Cruise with you last January, and you were doing a little a tribute kind of thing with Billy Branch and Biscuit Miller.
Right.
You guys were performing songs of blues icons.
Right.
And they gave you John Lee Hooker to do.
I got the call to do John. It took me a while to figure it out if I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And then I had met John when I was in Northern California. I moved from Southern California, I moved up to the Bay Area. Yeah. And I actually met John a few times and hung out. There was a club that I kind of helped. I was one of the first bands there called, they had a John Lee Hooker room.
Okay, yeah.
Right, and so he came in to kind of christen the place, and I hung out and talked to him. But it was amazing just to be able to study this, because it's like he was from another world, in my opinion, musically, because it wasn't about time and it's got to be here. It's just got to be wherever he wanted it, and you had to follow him. Yeah, and it was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, what different musical idols, mentors, from a Hendrix to a Albert Collins to a John Lee Hooker. Right. Each one giving you a little bit of...
Takes you somewhere else, because that was the whole thing with the rock thing, when I really got into that, you know, the shredding and a lot, and the this and that, it was like I got away from the old school.
Right.
And then when I started, you know, listening to Albert Collins, Freddie, you know, Albert King, Hooker, it just kind of, for me, it just kind of started to make a little more sense. Kind of gel.
At what point, you talked about the shredding and the guitar, at what point did James Armstrong start to realize that there's words that are just as important as the shredding?
Well, that's the whole thing. A lot of that, I have to give so much credit to Bruce Bromberg when I got signed with
From High Tone Records.
Yeah, because literally he saw me and came and, you know, I did this audition with a band. I didn't have a band.
Yeah.
And he went, wow, I think we can do something. So I saw him the next day, went to his house, and, you know, that's the guy that found Robert Cray.
Right, that's right.
Joe, so they were trying to push me, and I was going to go that route. And then he wouldn't sign me for 3 months.
Okay.
And I was shocked. And he goes, you have too much of that Hendrix thing in you, that phrasing, that voice thing. He said, go and woodshed and find James Armstrong and then call me in 3 months. And I was like shocked, but I did what he said and called him, and things got started.
And that was your first album, Sleeping with a Stranger?
That was the first one
what year was
with
that?
him.
96?
That was 96.
96,
Yeah. 96.
Great album. And right